Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video and welcome to round 4 of our F125 Aston Martin Driver Career Mode. Yes, we're back this weekend here in Sakir for the Bahrain Grand Prix. Of course, if you missed out on the video that went live yesterday from Japan, I would highly recommend going back and checking it out. We learned the hard way. 5 wide doesn't work into turn 1 at Suzuka. I think we know with just how difficult it is to overtake anyway around that circuit, that 5 of us going into turn 1 was always going to be a little bit optimistic, but we managed to keep our point streak alive. We've scored points in every single race so far this year. Oscar Piastri still with a 14-point buffer in the World Championship over Max Verstappen. We are still in P3 ahead of Lewis Hamilton and Yuki Tsunoda there. If you have a look at the results, we are slowly getting worse though with every race. It kind of feels like, you know, Max Verstappen, Hamilton, George Russell, Lando Norris are all slowly kind of remembering that they're Formula 1 drivers early on in the campaign as well. But of course, if you're new, please do make sure you hit that sub button. We are trying to hit 10k subs on the channel as well at the moment. A massive thank you to all of you guys for the continued support. I'm recording this after the first video has gone live as well, and it's just been absolutely mind-boggling, the support so far on round 1, so I'm hoping that will continue on. But the most important thing, we've got our first ever secret meeting inside this game, so I wonder which team's going to be interested in our services. Well, there we are then. We do have a slightly different animation inside F125, of course, when we're heading over to these secret meetings. But McLaren, arguably the best team in the sport right now, are interested in signing us after just 3 races in Formula 1. I think we'll continue talks. We'll see how things develop with them at the moment, but that is a very, very interesting revelation. Anyway, let's head then to Bahrain. Hopefully, we can get more points on the board.
Well, as the sun goes down, the speeds go up. It's almost time to get underway for this shootout for the fastest time and the best possible grid position for tomorrow's race. Let's get on with it. It's qualifying for the Bahrain Grand Prix.
Well, I've only really just thought about it, but I'd be so fascinated to know which McLaren driver we would replace if we went there. I don't have any real intention to at the moment, unless Aston Martin falls apart or decides to kick me to the curb for whatever reason. But yes, we head though into qualifying here in Bahrain. I finally have been able to change my name inside the game so we are full caps like everybody else. Why on earth it doesn't just force it that way anyway when you dive in, I have no idea. But yeah, hopefully we can try and get the car inside the top 10. Of course, if you've been keeping up with the My Team career mode, you'll know that obviously we had a pretty good race in that series. Accidentally. I might have binned it, got front wing damage, and because of that, the safety car came out and everybody else went for a really odd strategy towards the end of the afternoon. But as we try and get a qualifying lap dialed in, obviously we will get a couple of attempts at this, but yeah, I want to get into the top 10 for the first time. So far then, this first lap has felt fairly hooked up. I love what they've done with the curbs around here, Bahrain, in F125. It does feel a lot more like you can really attack the venue as well there. As we just run out of battery as we activate the DRS, we will go 3rd, quicker than Alonso, I believe, for the first time this year. Heading out then for our final run of the session. Alonso now right behind me in P10, so he's clearly found some time and is continuing to improve here. But what are we going to be able to do? We're about a second off the top cars. We know we're going to see AI improve on this second run. There was definitely a little bit of time on there, but it felt like a pretty good first hooked up run. I feel like we are slowly getting there inside this game. Just trying to make sure that we nail the apex through turn 1. It's worth scrubbing off a little bit extra speed to make sure we can go fully flat through turn 2 like we just did there. And immediately we're a 10th up for the good. By the time we get to the top of that hill, flick the car in, avoid that inside curve. Really watch out for the understeer though as you head over the top of the bump. Of course, through here now, those curves you can really attack both through the entry and the exit.
Now we've been pushed down to P11.
So yeah, we are seeing more times improve from others. Down to P11 then as we head through turn 9 and turn 10. Oh, nice and easy. Car hooked up there, and I mean we're still just finding little bits, little improvements so far on this lap. I'm trying to just make sure I save myself a little bit more battery for the run up towards the flag. But 5th gear, as we wind our way up through the S's, hopefully we're going to put ourselves, you know, right up towards the sharp end here by the end of the session. Flick the car in up over the top of the hill, try and get the hook up on the exit, allow the car to run a little bit wide off the corner. One more to go then here of our last ditch qualifying run. Will we just nail the apex? I think Alonso has improved and rocketed up there nicely on the throttle on the exit, the final turn. Drain the battery on the run to the line. We go P6. Well, of course, this is kind of one of McLaren's home Grand Prix. Lando Norris will claim pole there, but Charles Leclerc will deny them a front row lockout. We end up P6, but the gap between myself and Alonso only a 1/10.5. So very, very tightly bunched there towards the bottom of the top 10. I feel like had we got it absolutely perfect, we could have maybe jumped George Russell, but I used the battery pretty well as well on that lap. But we've got 29 more ahead of us as we head into the race.
We're here again then at a circuit famous for its stunning visuals and thrilling battles for glory. Who will take the spotlight in the Bahrain Grand Prix today? Formula One returns to the desert today on this exceptional 3.36-mile circuit. 15 corners provide plenty of overtaking opportunities, and it could be a strategic race, this one, with Sakhir notorious for eating up the rear tyres. Watch out for drivers managing their rubber at some point during the Grand Prix. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Lando Norris put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position, with Charles Leclerc alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Piastri, Verstappen, George Russell, Mr. Monaco, Tsunoda, Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, and Carlos Sainz. Ocon, Gasly, Nico Hülkenberg, Doohan, Lawson, Albon, Ollie Behrman, and Gabriel Bortoleto. Hadja and Andrea Kimi Antonelli rounds off the grid. With preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
Well, there we go, our best qualifying session of the year so far, and I hadn't even noticed poor Kimi Antonelli last on the grid. Hadn't even spotted that by the end of qualifying, but as I've said before, his AI desperately needs a buff inside this game. 29 laps ahead of us though. The team definitely think the 2-stop is the way to go, and honestly I'm inclined to believe them. I think the soft tyres are going to be good at the start, but are quickly going to fall away, so we might see an even earlier switch over to a set of mediums. Ready on the grid though, 5 red lights are on. Oh, and a mighty long hole, but it is lights out and away we go. Not for George Russell though, or Lando Norris. He'll struggle on the run into turn 1. Oscar Piastri is going to make it 3 wide for the lead there. And we're just going to take it nice and easy in towards that first corner. Will we see some carnage between our front guys? Verstappen rather cleverly, I think, decides to bail out that one as Oscar Piastri completely knocks down the bollard through turn 2 there. Lando Norris streaking away though after a pretty terrible initial launch. But around the outside at the top of the hill as Leclerc and Oscar still wheel to wheel there as Max Verstappen and myself waiting just in line. Carlos Sainz looks to have made progress as well ahead of Hamilton and Yuki Tsunoda on this lap 1. I don't know where Alonso is. Hopefully he's going to be able to get his first kind of real points of the year this weekend. Obviously an absolute disaster, a complete write-off at Suzuka. Basically meant that he spent 27 laps just to overtake Nico Hülkenberg right at the end of the Grand Prix there. So yeah, it was not a fun race for him, but already then we can see Norris trying to break out the DRS range of everybody else. I just want to hang on to the coattails of 2nd through 4th, but we'll wait and see whether that's possible. Well, here we go, Leclerc trying to have a look to the outside of Oscar, at the final corner. No, we'll actually try and switch him as Oscar Piastri there runs very, very deep of the final turn. That's going to leave him vulnerable on the run back to turn 1, and already you can see Leclerc trying to go for it yet again. Verstappen thinks about trying to make it 3 wide in towards turn 1 there, but for the second lap, Oscar Piastri and Charles Leclerc wheel to wheel through turn 1 and turn 2. Will Oscar again get the elbows out? He has to give Charles Leclerc some room there as Verstappen maybe a little bit vulnerable. Up the hill, 2x2 they go. It's like Noah's Ark on the run. Up into turn 4 there, but Leclerc just caught me out a little bit early on the brakes, so he will slot back in. Here we go, Verstappen again to the outside now of Charles Leclerc. And it seems like Oscar Piastri has finally got his act together early on in this race as he's going to leave the Ferrari and the Red Bull to battle behind him. Who will get the DRS out in the final corner? They both will. So it is going to be a fair drag race back into turn 1. Verstappen, though, doesn't look like he's got enough battery to hang alongside the Ferrari. Oh, I thought about it. I thought about having a look to the inside of the Dutchman, but I decided we'd rather not. Here we go, this time round, Verstappen with the DRS, Charles Leclerc without it. To the outside will go the Dutchman down at turn 1, and already it's starting to feel like we might be struggling for pace a little bit against these guys. Oh, Leclerc and I myself get a little bit of a snap on the exit. This time around, they both got the DRS again as George Russell just waiting in the wings. I think he's sensing an opportunity to attack pretty soon. How bad is the tyre wear already? Nearly 30% on the rears. We're only 4 laps in. Well, Leclerc is definitely struggling. We are definitely struggling, but we are struggling less than the Ferrari. Just realised I said struggling about 5 times in that sentence, but to the outside then of the Monegasque man. Whoa, he's going to give me a big old squeeze through turn 2. We'll still have the DRS on the exit, and I've got to try and get around him now. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck behind him probably for another lap.
We want to keep them behind, please. This is super critical for our strategy.
It's around the outside of Leclerc. We'll go wall of death style stuff there, but already you can see Verstappen and Oscar Piastri have gone, so we'll probably wave goodbye to them. Well, again then, Charles Leclerc, maybe he's just taking a lap to remember what he's doing. But back to the inside will go the Ferrari, and yeah, I reckon we might try and box 1 lap early here. I might come in at the end of lap 7 to come off of these softs. First time really all season, we've really kind of struggled with actually the surface temperature of the tyres. Bahrain, of course, we all know is a tyre killer, but it is interesting kind of what you have to manage differently. Oh, Leclerc as well, big drift. Well, I think if you absolutely had to, the one stop is possible around here from the medium and then moving over to the hard compound, but especially in Season 1, of course, where the cars are not that developed so far, the tyre wear is really bad. As speaking of tyre wear, warning light is immediately going to flash up then, so into the pit lane we will go, and the first car's in. That's annoying.
Chin up, and let's focus on the rest of the race.
I had actually completed that. We were keeping Tsunoda at bay quite comfortably as Fernando Alonso then still running up in the points at the moment. He's in a little bit of no man's land, but he's doing quite well. Hamilton's having a stinker in his Ferrari.
Looks like a nice stop time. We're happy with that one.
And no idea what's going on with Isaac Hadjar as well, but he is having a very, very lonely race at the rear of the field.
1 stop to go. Just 1 stop left in this strategy.
Luckily, we're going to come out right behind him, and I think we'll have picked ourselves up some DRS. Got to get the tyres up to temperature. So try and throw the car through turn 1 and turn 2. But yep, there we go. Come on, this is going to be a critical move for us. And we're not going to make it happen. We've got absolutely... Whoa! No drive on the run up the hill. And again, Isaac's on much older tyres than I am. We might try and go for a bit of a Fernando Alonso-style tribute here up the hill in towards turn 9 and turn 10 there, and then try and dive underneath of Isaac Hadjar there. Beautiful little recreation of my teammates' move in 2023. I'm happy with that one. And there is Charles Leclerc then in his Ferrari, so he's gone hards, interestingly. That is a very bold call by Ferrari there, but we'll try and time it to perfection through turn 1. Oh no, Charles, what's he doing? What is Charles Leclerc doing there, man? It felt like he ran wide into me and just understeered on his cold tyres.
The underbody's taken some damage. You might start to notice it soon. No need to
that
worry
is
about the
very
tyre
annoying.
condition for now. Everything's looking good.
He's put a load of wear through our rear tyres as well there, I think, by doing that, because of course we completely locked them up, but surely that's a penalty for Leclerc. I mean, let's watch this then from Charles Leclerc's point of view. As he makes his way out of the pit lane, you're going to see we're going to come down the outside in towards turn 1 there. We obviously opt for the switchback strategy through turn 1 and turn 2, and I mean, you can see him understeer. Just the front end of that Ferrari on cold tyres. Yes, we've given him a bit of a squeeze. I think he's also bottomed out over the curb, but I mean, at that point, he's driving straight through a left-hander there. Make that make sense, and of course, obviously, suddenly realises what he's done, tries to get the steering lock on. And we were admittedly a little bit unlucky with where the contact was that we get sent spinning. But if we take a look at that from an alternate angle as well, very, very disappointed with Charles Leclerc's driving there. You see, we got a beautiful switchback through turn 1. Warm tyres against cold. and nothing we could do. And Charles Leclerc will claim the spot. There we go, a load more cars into the pits, and, well, really our reference point here is going to be Fernando Alonso. He was running in 10th place before the pit stops. I think he's been able to get the jump on Sainz.
Changing your ERS mode in the MFD for a more conservative burn rate, or you might want to try some lifting or gentle braking to recharge.
There we go, we'll get around Carlos Sainz then and back up into P13. Definitely still a few more cars that need to pit, but I think both Astons are still inside your top 10. There we go, Behrman, Bortoletto, I believe that is. No, Hulkenberg both into the pit lane then, so Alonso is now back up into the points officially. Gasly's on hard, so I don't think he's pit yet. Or, yeah, I don't think he has. I'm not entirely sure. There we go. Sorry, it was Bortoletto, and then there's a Haas car that is still out there in this race. Gasly had, of course, already pitted. But there we go. Both Aston Martins running back inside your top 10. Hopefully Alonso and I are going to be able to pick off Pierre quite soon. But the big one I want to get the jump on is Charles Leclerc, of course. Well, maybe with the power of teamwork, then Fernando Alonso and I can go on a little bit of a charge over the next few laps there. As to the inside of Pierre Gasly, he's going to have a look. Can we potentially try and follow him by? We're going to go for a big late move on Pierre there. Get it slowed down at the apex of turn 1. Sure, he won't be too happy with that one, but the Aston Martin boys were working together. Whoa, tyre warning lights just flashed up, and suddenly we get a huge wobble down through the S's there. I think that's our reminder that we're going to pit at the end of this lap, but yeah, really, we've just been glued to the back of Fernando Alonso recently. I've never really had an opportunity to try and get past him unless I kind of drained the battery, and ultimately that man right there is not the one I need to be squabbling with at this stage of the Grand Prix. We're both taking good time out of Charles Leclerc, and obviously if we both pit in the next couple of laps, hopefully we're going to get the undercut on the Ferrari and try and hold him up towards the end of the afternoon, but throwing the car up over the top of the circuit. We will just drain a little bit of battery now. But yeah, hard tyres going on the wagon to see us through to the end of the GP. I think we've done pretty well on this middle stint, especially when you factor in obviously all the wear we picked up right at the start. Someone into the pit lane then, not too sure who that is. Yuki Tsunoda in his Red Bull. He was on softs. What strategy was Yuki Tsunoda doing in this Grand Prix? That is very aggressive by the Red Bull team. As all, we'll hold him up though. And by doing that, I completely missed my own pit entry. So that has been a bit of a disaster. 3.2 seconds is not fantastic.
That stop was slower than we ideally wanted to see.
Yeah, that was all on me. I apologise to the team. At least I didn't run over anybody or anything like that.
No more scheduled pit stops. Let's go.
So we're going to come out then just behind Gabriel Bortoletto and Ollie Behrman once again. This outlap has got to be quick. Well, Fernando Alonso, Charles Leclerc and a whole host of other cars into the pit lane then, but getting these hard tyres up to temp has not been easy on this outlap, so I'm not convinced we're going to see the undercut that I was hoping for in this Grand Prix. There is Leclerc, there is Fernando. So we are going to be racing our teammate on pit lane exit there as well. Leclerc wheel to wheel with Ollie Behrman down at turn 1. He doesn't decide to tip him into a spin at this stage of the Grand Prix, but Leclerc actually, he's opted for a double hard strategy here, so the Ferrari won't have an advantage.
Car ahead now on the hard compound.
He's definitely losing a load of time as well there as he tries to get his tyres up to temperature now. And are we finally going to be able to put a move back on Charles Leclerc? I've waited quite a few laps, so hopefully be able to do this. A little bit understeery though, down through the S's, so can we try and get the switch back up the hill? Are we going to have to try and go for another Alonso tribute in this Grand Prix? As to the outside of the Ferrari, no, we'll cut underneath. We'll dive in once again, and I can see why Fernando did it, because it works fantastically. Ollie Behrman then, definitely struggling, but I'm not sure he's going to pit again before the end of this race. I believe him and Bortoletto are the ones trying to make the one-stop happen here, so this might be a proper kind of straight fight for the final points paying position right now. One of the Alpines of Pierre Gasly, I would assume, into the pit lane. Nope, got that one wrong. It's Jack Doohan. To the outside then of Behrman, we will go back in towards turn 1. Hopefully he's not going to fight it too hard as all lock up all four wheels ever so slightly. And annoyingly, we did get the DRS off of Bortoletto, that's alright then. So try and get a run on him up the hill. Maybe not going to be able to do it now.
Okay, mate, Bortoletto ahead. They're holding us up now, so let's please try and get past as soon as possible and get on with our race. Push, push.
absolutely walloped the curb there, and that just gave us an absolute heap of understeer up through turn 4. But you can see there's, I mean, both Saubers are inside the top 10 right now, so clearly their strategy is working well for them. But can we do it for a third time then? Fernando Alonso, he's got to be loving seeing this. No, we can't.
Brand new race strategy on your MFD if you want to go and check it out.
Oh, that's annoying. Just ran completely into the back of Bortoletto. We get a warning for exceeding track limits as well, and well, that is annoying. I don't want softs. I want to use a set of mediums. We've got a new set of mediums still with the team, but oh, that is so frustrating. Just one little error. No idea where I'm going up the hill, but onto a fresh set of mediums. We'll have to go then try and take him to the end of the afternoon, and now we've got to try and recover for the points here. Damn it! Just Bortoletto, of course, on those old tyres. I wasn't expecting him to brake as early as he did, but even then I kind of panicked, locked up, and of course that completely reduced the braking performance of the car as well. And annoyingly then, an unorthodox pit stop in this Grand Prix. Every race has gone well up to this point. I knew it couldn't last forever, but yeah, we've got to try and recover, see if we can get a point or two from this afternoon's proceedings, as we are going to be down in last place then here. So we're going to have a lot of work to do in the dying stages. 7.5 second stop's not bad going. Oh no, we're not last. Isaac Hadjar is still out there. Well, I guess, yeah, we're not last then in this Grand Prix, but we need to be multiple seconds a lap faster than some of these guys. That's not going to be easy. Oh, Charles Leclerc's gone. That's karma, if ever I've seen it. Charles Leclerc, our first driver out of the Grand Prix. There we go. I guess that's one place back for us late on in the race. But yeah, like I said, that is karma. There we go. Bortoletto and Ollie Behrman have thrown the towel in. They don't think they can get to the end. As there we go, showcasing the pace we have got in the car with a new fastest lap of the day. Wouldn't be surprised though, both Hasses and Saubers on the softs, if one of them claims that fastest lap for themselves, albeit been consistently just setting 1:31.9s over and over and over the last few laps. I feel like a machine late on or in the day here, but as soon as we get in the dirty air of Jack Doohan, immediately notice the car's starting to struggle just a little bit more for grip. Let's have a full race update. Nope, apparently we won't. Thanks, Mark. That's very useful. But points still are right there. So we are not that far away with 4 laps remaining. We have got to try and look after the tyres, though, as we need to try and get a run on Doohan up the hill. I cannot afford to be stuck behind him through the middle sector here. Will we be able to get a run on the Alpine? Oh, way too late on the brakes, though. We'll just try and get it stopped on the circuit. And yep, Jack Doohan will say thank you very much. Really do notice how much the dirty air hits you inside F1 25, but Hamilton, he is really struggling as well in this afternoon's running. So hopefully now we're going to be able to get a run on Doohan there. But you can see a big train of cars on the run back down in towards turn 1. Jack Doohan, though, he's going to try and defend it. Clearly he thinks he's got a chance towards the end of the Grand Prix, as there's 3 cars battling in front, and that, I believe, has given Alex Albon and his Williams a huge opportunity just to try and get away there, but get the elbows out with Jack Doohan. Just force him into submission that time, and we're up back into P15. Oh, Hamilton down the inside. Okay, not going to complain about it. I have no idea what's happened to the Ferrari man today. Maybe he's trying to manage the engine. Obviously, we already saw Leclerc drop from the Grand Prix, but yeah, Pierre Gasly in P11. The gap in front of him is opening up. All over the back, practically pushing Esteban Ocon through turn 1. Clearly, the soft tyre gamble for Haas and Sauber isn't working late on in the day. Around the outside of Esteban will go. Here, Gasly trying to keep Nico Hülkenberg at bay late on in the day. The Williams, though, that's the one I'm looking at. A couple of seconds up the road. I think the gap is about 3 still. And with less than 2 laps to go, I'm not optimistic about this. You can hear how much we're struggling on the tyres towards the end of this race, but Gasly still trying to hold up Nico Hülkenberg. Maybe if someone has an error or an issue a little bit further up, maybe his mediums, his hard tyres even, I believe, on the French car starting to deliver a little bit more. As we get a huge amount of wheel spin. Hülkenberg undecided whether he wants to slipstream or defend. Either way, it was the wrong choice, as we will get around his outside. And there's the gap to Albon, 2.5 seconds. That's what we need between now and the end of the Grand Prix, but that is going to be very, very difficult to come by, especially when these tyres are beginning to hit the cliff We'll try and make sure that we keep the DRS off of Pierre Gasly on the run back down in towards turn 1. Hopefully that'll give us a little bit of extra time against Albon there. Try and roll on the throttle. Everybody's struggling on their tyres towards the end of the GP. But 1 lap remaining then here in Sakhir. Hulkenberg, I mean, how has he got that kind of speed? The Sauber flying back past us in towards turn 1. And I think that denies us a chance at points today there. Around the outside we'll go. Gasly's actually got front wing damage. So Pierre Gasly really struggling towards the end of the GP there. Can we get a run up the hill? We've got no battery left. We've just got nothing left in this car. And I think it has been a valiant effort today, but ultimately one that is not going to pay dividends for us here unless something crazy happens on this final lap, practically pushing him through the first couple of corners. As Lando Norris wins the race, we're going to go spinning, and you can't say we weren't committed right towards the very end. Annoyingly, we weren't going to score points anyway, so it's not going to make a difference there, but just the rear tyres completely gone on this car. What's the wear doing on them? They're only at 59, so yeah, they are right at the point where they will give up. There we go, the warning light flashes up now. We shouldn't finish last in this Grand Prix. I think that is going to be reserved for Isaac Hadjar late on in the day, but in towards the final few corners though, Ollie Behrman now will get a run down the inside as well. So can we try and get back past him before the end of the GP? It looks like Alonso is going to score decent points for the first time this year as well for the team. So at least as a team, we keep the points record rolling, but our first non-point score of the season, and it comes from Charles Leclerc tipping me into a spin, and then Gabriele Bortoleto on wrecked tyres getting in the way as well. That one was admittedly my fault. Through the final corner, P18. That is disappointing.
All right, race over. Take care of the car on the way in.
Here's the checkered flag, and our winner has landoed. It's Lando Norris for victory.
They led from lights out to the flag at the end, and their race victory was never in doubt, was it? Brilliant stuff by them.
It's time to bring out the bubbly and spray it around. It's our podium celebrations. He holds the trophy aloft, and why shouldn't he? A richly deserved win today for Lando Norris.
Well, there we are then. Lando Norris will take victory here in Bahrain. Honestly, took the lead, obviously, or kept the lead at the start, and never really looked back. Pretty plain sailing for the McLaren man here. Verstappen in P2 ahead of Oscar Piastri and Yuki Tsunoda. George Russell, a very good race in his Mercedes, and Kimi Antonelli getting points there after a terrible qualifying. I'm honestly not sure how he got back inside the top 10, but fair play to the kid. Did very, very well there. Alonso, though, matches my result from Suzuka with a P6 finish for 8 points. Carlos Sainz there, Liam Lawson and Albon rounding out your top 10. So quite a few surprises this weekend. Neither Ferrari able to score here, and Isaac Hadjar finishing 1 lap down. But we did hang on to the fastest lap as well there. Sadly, of course, no bonus point anymore inside F1 25. It means Piastri's lead at the top of the table down to just 11 points there. Norris and Tsunoda will jump myself, but we are still ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Kimi Antonelli still ahead of Ocon and George Russell, and Alonso now up onto P13 ahead of Albon and Lawson as well, though, with his first points of the campaign. Just leaves both Kick Saubers, Jack Doohan and Isaac Hadjar, yet to score this season. McLaren, a 13-point buffer in the Constructors ahead of Red Bull. Ferrari now 1 point ahead of Mercedes and ourselves, so maybe we could fight for third overall this year if we can keep the momentum going throughout the next few Grand Prix. A little bit disappointed that our point streak has come to an end, but we will return tomorrow ready in Saudi Arabia. Thank you all so much for watching, and yeah, we'll be back on the Jeddah Corniche.